Okay, so officially welcome everyone. This is the Safe Streets Awareness and Safety Training. My name is Eric Hasted. I'm a community mobilizer with Safe Streets, and I will be your main facilitator today. Currently, we also have Sergeant Darren Moss in the video in the conversation. He'll be talking a little bit about Pierce County Sheriff's Department in a little bit. We also have some other Safe Street staff in the meeting. We have Connor, we have Roxanne, Wanda, and Alberto. So those are going to be your Safe Street staff member. So if you have any questions or if there's anything that comes up, any tech issues during this, feel free to message any of them. Connor has been kind of poked as the initial helper, and so feel free to message him first, but if he's not responding, any of the other Safe Street staff should be able to help you out with your problems. So just want to let you know. Another thing is that kind of general housekeeping things. During Zoom meetings, please keep yourself muted unless you're actively asking the question. You can find your mute button in the lower left corner of the screen. It's a little microphone that you can toggle on and off. Feel free to have your video on or off during this training. It's really up to you, whatever your preference is. And with that, let's get into the actual training. So hold on just one moment, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So like I mentioned, this is the Neighborhood Awareness and Safety Training. This training was initially conceived as an opportunity to train Safe Streets group members who are interested in patrolling their neighborhoods in order to do some more traditional block watch activities. This was to teach them some of the best practices in order to keep themselves safe while they patrol their neighborhoods. We've since adapted this training because we recognize that not everybody is looking to be in a block watch style group, and also that's not the only way to address some of these issues that are happening. And so it's been adapted for anyone, not just Safe Streets group members. And so this training consists of 3 parts. There's session 1, which is all about organizing and connecting. I'll be doing this first part of the training, and it's about an overview of the neighborhood organizing and connectedness programs with Safe Streets, as well as how to identify some common problems and solutions. Session 2 is going to be partners and emergency services. So this is going to be, the first part is Tacoma Police Department and Pierce County Sheriff's Department. We're going to break up into 2 different breakout rooms. This will be about an hour long for you to be able to hear directly from some of those law enforcement officers, as well as to ask some questions about anything that pertains to law enforcement. And then the second part of that session is going to be with South Sound 911, which is our regional 911 operating service. That's also going to be about an hour long, and that'll be all together as a group. We do have a presenter from South Sound 911 who will be with us in a little bit and has a really, really excellent presentation about the inner workings of 911 and kind of what goes on behind the scenes when you call. It's a really, really excellent section that I think is really beneficial. The final session of this awareness and safety training is going to be our section on observing and reporting. So this is going to be a combination of awareness and safety recommendations, how to make quick suspect descriptions, as well as some further resources for everyone present here, whether you're involved with Safe Streets currently or not. And that third session is also going to be by Safe Streets. I'm going to be presenting that. The first and the third session are both going to be about a half an hour, and I'll be sure to give you all breaks while we go through this. I do want to make sure that there's going to be plenty of stops in here in case anyone has any questions. It's a long training. It's about 3 hours, and I recognize that that's a huge commitment, particularly on a presidential debate night. So I really appreciate you all being here. Does anybody have any questions about anything before we get started? And feel free to unmute yourself during any of these question periods if you have a question to ask. Okay, then we can go ahead and get started. So the first section is going to be on organizing and connecting. So this really kind of gets at the heart of what are the ways that we can work together in order to address some of these concerns that are in the neighborhoods. So I always like to start this out with, for anybody present, you can do either in the chat or you can do unmuting yourself and just guessing. What do you think is the #1 deterrent to crime? This is an interactive training, and so feel free to type out a comment or say anything. Any guesses about the #1 deterrent to crime? Okay, well, it looks like we have a pretty shy small group, and so that's okay. So what we like to say at Safe Streets is that the #1 deterrent to crime is knowing your neighbor, and a good neighbor specifically. So we really operate off of the philosophy that knowing your neighbor is the best crime deterrent, and that through our interconnection with others is the best way to create a strong, safe, clean, and healthy neighborhood. And so knowing what's going on in your neighborhood is really vital to keeping unwanted criminal activity to a minimum. We also like to talk about the fact that a really active neighborhood where you see your neighbors, where you know kind of what's normal, what's not normal, you know your neighbors by face, you have conversations, you're keeping up on each other, and you're sharing news. That's some of the best ways in order to create a really strong and safe neighborhood environment. We also, obviously, a joint organized effort is always going to be more effective than individual efforts. And really through that communication and that connection between community members, you're providing your entire neighborhood with a higher capacity to watch for suspicious activity and crime in your neighborhood. I know that for me personally, I get the most information about what's going on in my neighborhood just from when I walk my dog, and I end up stopping and talking with all of my neighbors. I have probably 10 different houses in my neighborhood that I run into pretty regularly. And then it's from them that I hear about, oh, my car got broken into last week, or oh, this person was rooting around in my backyard. And so really being able to share that kind of news is going to be the fastest and most effective ways to find out more about what's going on. And so one of the ways that you can work together, and one of the kind of extensions of just getting to know your neighbors, is that a lot of neighborhoods and communities will tend to formalize that connectedness and form a block watch. So whether it's called a block watch, a neighborhood group, a community group, a block club, whatever you call it, it is an organized group of neighbors that are looking out for one another, and they're making that choice to live in a safer, cleaner, and more inviting neighborhood. So when it comes to block watches at Safe Streets, that's actually one of our primary organizing models, is that we work with block groups that meet together maybe once a month. During COVID, perhaps less so because it's a lot harder to get people online, as we can see. But it's really just all about having that formal space and time to get together, have a conversation about what's happening in the neighborhood, what is it that, maybe what are some of the issues that we'd like to address, and then finding what are those resources that we can use in order to address them. This model of communicating with each other and assessing what the situation is, and then coming up with plans and projects in order to address those issues, is really one of the best ways that you can make meaningful change in your neighborhoods. And so really block watches are all about developing community bonding and really getting that structure down and to more efficiently organize your efforts. So when it comes to a block watch, there's some different practices that we really like to encourage as being best practices to be successful in addressing those issues. First and foremost, we think that developing a vision and specifically understanding what is your purpose for each and every meeting that you get together, communicating that purpose, and then also establishing those boundaries and the best time and meeting place to make it happen. That is what really drives putting together these action plans in order to address whatever it is that you'd like to address. Some other best practices of block watches that we tend to encourage is the recognition of new and returning members. It makes a huge difference, going back to how important it is to know your neighbors and be a good neighbor. It makes a huge difference if you're coming into a new group and you have an opportunity to introduce yourself and that you're welcome to each one of those meetings. And following up with those members, checking in and sharing, you're just further deepening the relationships that you have with each and every community member that you're connected with. And ultimately, that's just going to make the communication of this information that's so vital to making change easier to happen. We also highly recommend recruiting new members and using their skills. And then also a lot of different block watches tend to utilize flyers, whether they're physical or virtual, in order to communicate information around what is it you're currently working on, when are your meetings happening, if there's any particular initiatives that you wanted to have more people aware of in your community. These are all really important things that we like to encourage any group, whether you're a Safe Streets block group or not, to participate in and to utilize in order to be more connected with your neighbors. It always comes back to being more connected. And so some of the benefits of forming the block groups, or just this kind of really formalized and structured communication and connectedness with your neighbors, is about an increased awareness of criminal activity, decreased crime activity, and so more stable communities, empowering the community and increasing the quality of life. And this one is really important. A neighborhood that is interconnected, that has really open lines of communication, that has a formal understanding of, you know, we can go here and get the help that we need from our neighbors. It really makes you feel more at home and connected to your neighborhood itself. And so we really do think that formalizing your relationship and being intentional about how you connect is incredibly important. It leads to a cleaner and safer neighborhood. There's economic growth for residents and businesses. Obviously, businesses are going to be more successful and more interested in being successful in neighborhoods that have lower rates of crime, friendlier faces, more stable relationships. And then finally, it just comes down to this connection in itself, and the involvement in itself is a benefit. Once you have something formalized going and you're able to better connect with your neighbors, then it's a lot easier to garner support and to collect new engagement from new neighbors to begin with. And so with all of these things, Safe Streets, as I said, this is one of our primary programs that we operate. It's our community mobilization program. And so if you are not currently a part of a Safe Streets group, or if you think that your area, your neighborhood, your community, your street, it doesn't have to be an entire neighborhood, would benefit from some more formal organizing and to be more connected in this way, or even if you're just interested in more information, there is a Safe Streets mobilizer, community mobilizer for each area of Pierce County, pretty much, with the exception of a couple cities. And we're more than happy to connect with you in order to see how can we work together to maybe put something together. And so, does anybody have any immediate questions about this first section? And so that's anything about the neighborhood organizing program, about the benefits of getting to know your neighbors. Do any of the other community mobilizers have any input about things that I've forgotten? It's been a little bit since we've done this training because of COVID. Okay, well, if there's no extra input or extra questions, I do see that we have both our City of Tacoma, our Tacoma Police Department representative, as well as our Pierce County deputy here. And so then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to transition us into session 2, Partners and Emergency Services. So give me just one moment. If you haven't already, please in the chat, if you are a regular attendee of this event, please put down your full name as well as which city you're a part of. I need to be able to divide you between City of Tacoma and Pierce County Sheriffs, or Pierce County. So if you haven't done that, please do. I'm going to make an attempt to break us out into some breakout rooms now. I'm just going to have everybody who's in the City of Tacoma stay here, since that seems easier than having everybody split into 2 new rooms. So give me one moment and I'm going to go ahead and hopefully send out the Pierce County folks. So give me just one moment.
Milwaukee breakout room.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, and let's see if this goes. Did that work?
Yes.
I think that worked. You should have a thing. Okay, it looks like people are going. Oh yeah, this is wonderful. This is great. Now we're just waiting on Nancy to go over to Pierce County. And if that's not correct, Nancy, if you are supposed to stay in this room, please let me know. I want to make sure I'm getting you to the right place. Okay, well, maybe Nancy is, maybe she's checking up on the debate right now. Let's see. Okay, well, we can probably get started here. So it obviously looks like the City of Tacoma room is pretty small. Currently, it seems like it's mostly Safe Street staff, and then Julia's here.
Julia.
And so we can just go ahead and get into it. Maybe this will just be a really excellent refresher for Safe Street staff.
All right.
Yeah, I'll just introduce, most of us know her, but this is CLO Jennifer Terhar, and she'll be our primary presenter for this, so go ahead.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Is it coming through? You can hear me? All right, good. Okay, so I'm a community liaison officer with Tacoma, and if you're not familiar with that program, the police department has, we're supposed to have about 16 community liaison officers throughout the city. The city is divided into 4 different areas, and our community liaison officers were all fully fledged regular police officers.
Hey, what's going on?
We need for
Yeah, to be a co-host. I apologize. Yeah, let me.
Can you make him the co-host so he can share the screen?
I can. Yeah, one moment.
But then I can still record, right?
I believe so. Let's see.
You're taking away our time. We are down to 58 minutes.
So sorry. The other group actually only has one community member from the City of Tacoma, so it's probably not going to take the full hour, is my guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see here. Oh my gosh.
And we actually are recording, and I didn't request it. I didn't press the record button.
Eric, I don't know if you're talking to us, but you are muted.
I don't know if I can make him a co-host when we're in the breakout room as opposed to when we're in the regular room.
That's okay. I can do it without it. That's fine.
Okay, I am extremely sorry. Well, how big is the presentation? You may be able to email it directly to Roxanne, and then she can share if she's the co-host. Are you able to share, Roxanne or Connor?
I have the share screen.
Okay, so maybe Sergeant Moss, if you wouldn't mind emailing it to Roxanne, and then she should be able to. And I really apologize to everybody for this technical difficulty.
Might be too big.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, I apologize. I am going to go back to the other room though.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Close eye out on the property for me. And we're trying to keep that house secured up for her while we determine what's happening with her. And honestly, it's moving into a point where the court's probably going to be appointing her a guardian, and her house is going to sit in limbo for quite a while. But because the neighbors are really keeping a close eye on it. We're hoping that whatever's left of her property is intact and there for whomever, once the situation is resolved with her. But, get daily calls of people, breaking in the night, and it's merely because the neighbors are watching out for the house. So it's real important for you all to communicate with your officers, call 911 when
I've been with the Sheriff's Department for just over 9 years now. I've been in law enforcement for 12 years. I started out in the city of San Diego and came back up here. This is where home is for me. And I wanted to be a sheriff because my dad works here as well. So today I'll talk to you about kind of law enforcement in the county. But before I get to kind of how the county does law enforcement, I'll tell you a little bit about our community liaison program. I'm the supervisor for that unit. Our community liaison deputies, I have 5 of them. One was originally signed to be in each area in our in the county. So we have Gig Harbor area, we have Bonnie Lake Buckley area, which is called District 12. You have District 10 is the Mountain Detachment, which is all of most of Spanaway, Graham, Eatonville, all the way out to the mountain. And you have Central Patrol. Those were the districts that the community liaison deputies were doing enforcement in. The purpose of the community liaison program is to reach out to the community, go to meetings like this one, get to know the businesses and the stakeholders that are in the community, and then listen to the needs and wants of the community so that we can provide better service to the citizens within Pierce County. Some of the things that we had done.
the park near your house, you can use 911 non-emergency to report that type of incident. But the main thing we ask is that when you do call 911 or non-emergency 911, that you're a really good witness for us, that you've taken the time to watch and observe and get good details about what it is you're seeing. So good descriptions. I always tell people when they are trying to describe a suspect to us to think about them from top to bottom. So about approximately how tall were they, about how big, could you guess their weight, could you guess their age, describe hair from the top or hat, eyes, facial hair, glasses, anything up on the top, what clothing were they wearing, going down to the pants, going down to the shoes if you can, and try to be as detailed as possible. And you'll notice if you go through the doors at like a 7-Eleven, you're going to see actual height markers along those doors, and that's so if they were ever to be robbed or something, or had something happen in there, that someone could actually guess their height by comparing about where they are on that chart. So a lot of people say I'm not good with heights and weights, but try to do your best to compare them to you, as how do they compare to your size or your height. That's a good way to be a good witness for us. And also descriptions of cars, and where did they go after, did they leave while you're on the phone, or did they leave just prior to you calling 911? Where did they go, which direction? We can't always get to a call right away, but giving us a good description and a direction to travel is helpful, because we might have an officer who's in the area or who's going to be in the area shortly, or is in the area half an hour later, and they heard the description go out because 911 dispatchers broadcast it to the officers, and they actually come across whatever it is you're reporting a short while later. So it is important to report it. It's important to report even those minor crimes. We think everything's fine and dandy in your neighborhood if you're not reporting crime to us. So people all the time, like just today, I had someone to say they had been vandalized and threatened multiple times in the last couple of weeks. And I looked up 911 call history, and there's none. They hadn't reported a single thing. And so, the police department thinks everything's fine and dandy in your neighborhood, unless you're reporting it. And I know sometimes you feel like if you had your car rummaged through overnight because you accidentally left it unlocked and they didn't take anything, or maybe they just took something small like your sunglasses. the chances of us actually catching that person could be pretty slim, but it's still important for you to let us know what happened, where it happened, and when it happened, because we actually do base our patrols and the officers and where they go we base them on where crime is reported is happening. We have a program called Predictive Policing, and the officers actually can log into this program, and it will tell them that they should try to drive through such and such streets at such and such a time to look out for car prowlers or look out for burglars, because we've got a history of it happening in these time frames, and the likelihood or chances of it happening again in these time frames when the officers are going through are pretty high. So we want to have you report these things to us so that it can get into that predictive policing program, and we can get officers in the area where crime is occurring, because it does us no good to have an officer patrolling an area where everything's fine and dandy. I know everybody wants to have an officer go through their neighborhood every once in a while, but it's probably more important to have it have us going through the areas where crime's occurring, so we can try to deter the crime before it happens. And it is actually a successful program. It was designed, I want to say, a university on the East Coast, Boston or something like that. And it is something that is actually proven to work. And so it is important to report those crimes to us, even the smallest things. And you have a couple options. You can call 911 non-emergency, you can call 911, or you can go to tacomapolice.org and file a police report on your own that way. And you can do that. You can't do every crime that way, but if you can do like thefts, not cars or guns. You can't report stolen cars or stolen guns online, but if you had, let's just say your wallet stolen or lost, you could report it that way. Or you had someone steal your bicycle off your front porch, you could report it through 911. I'm sorry, Tacoma online, which you go to tacomapolice.org to report that. So there's a link on tacomapolice.org to file online police reports, and it'll walk you through. It'll stop you if you can't do it. If you know the suspect's name or you got a good look at them, then it's not going to want you to file that online. It's going to want you to actually talk to a police officer.
And just to check, Jennifer, sorry to interrupt, is it still tacomasafe.org, or has it moved over to
I believe there might be a link under Tacoma Safe as well, but I think tacomapolice.org is going to have a link directly to it. I do know that. I checked it a couple weeks ago, but tacomasafe.org is a secondary site that we were using, and honestly, I have not personally checked it. I wish they didn't change things on us, but they sometimes do. So tacomapolice.org is definitely the safest way. And it's really short and simple to file a police report that way, but it is important. So let's see, that's helpful. Talk about being a good witness. Another thing, we really love our block watch groups, especially the community liaison officers, because it gets people talking, it gets neighbors communicating and knowing one another, and it helps us to ensure that word's getting spread about what's going on in the neighborhoods, because unfortunately we can't make a press release about every little crime and whatnot, but we rely upon neighbors talking to neighbors. So many of our block watch groups have Facebook pages or just even email chains to communicate with each other, and so it's really important to help spread the word that way. Also, I mean, it might just be knocking on your neighbor's door, and that's really important. I've lived in the same house for 18 years. This last year, we finally talked to this neighbor about 5 doors down. Lived here the entire time we have. They are very quiet, keep to themselves, and it wasn't until they got a dog that they started walking that we got to know them. And we say hi and wave and talk to them when they come grab the mail and when they walk by with the dog every day. But it's kind of embarrassing. I'm the police officer on the block, and everybody knows it, and I still don't know. But in their defense, they don't talk to anybody. But it is nice that they do know things, and we are communicating. And I had an incident in my own neighborhood I was evacuated a couple weeks ago for the wildfires. And the night we came home from evacuation, I worked late, got home 11 o'clock at night, went up into my bedroom. My husband was already in bed, so the bedroom lights were off, and I was headed in, and I see headlights shine across the ceiling of my bedroom as if somebody's doing a U-turn in my driveway. So I went and peered out the blinds, and there's a person on a motorcycle right in front of our house. He's actually stopped kind of across the street from mine, but he's got a cell phone out, and he is doing something on his cell phone, and he's moving the phone around, you know, as if he's kind of taking picture or video or something. And I don't know exactly, but I watched him, and he stayed there, and he had his motorcycle, you know, on, but running real low. And I flipped on the bedroom light. And once I did that, he took notice, and then he got on that motorcycle and just slowly drove off. Initially, I thought maybe delivering pizza, because all the houses had been without power for days. And, you know, he had kind of a little pouch thing on the back of his bike and stuff, but, you know, I wasn't quite sure, but I took note. I paid good attention to exactly what he looked like. Sure enough, on Sunday, so that was a Thursday, Sunday morning, I'm scrolling through the local Facebook block watch group type pages for my neighborhoods, and someone posted a picture of this exact same guy. Let's just say I'm 99% sure it was the same guy on this motorcycle taking a picture of somebody else's house, and then that house sure enough got burglarized the next day. So, or, you know, so they had taken the picture, and then the following day the house is burglarized. Honestly, don't know 100% if it was him, but there was multiple reports on these Facebook block watch groups pages that I'm on, that about seeing a motorcyclist, maybe more than one, not sure, going around taking photos. So it, you know, luckily I spread it with my neighbors as soon as I saw that guy going. And I just said to everybody, I don't know if this guy was up to, you know, was legit in our neighborhood, maybe looking for something, but FYI, I saw him. So let's keep our porch lights on at night. Let's lock up the doors, make sure the windows are shut, and let's watch out for each other's houses. So to my knowledge, nobody in my neighborhood had a burglary, but about 2 miles from my house, you know, the same motorcycle was seen taking these pictures, and the next day the house was burglarized. So kind of makes you wonder if it's all related. But of course, somebody's ringing my doorbell right now. I don't know what that is. So I'm the only one home, but I'm going to ignore it for a minute. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I think it's my dog outside. The neighbor kid's letting him in. Hang on. Hold on, guys. My dog was outside. I got to close.
This is the kind of stuff you couldn't get with in-person meetings.
Well, there you go. My dog was out in the front yard, and the neighbor kid grabbed him for me. So sorry. Yeah, so where was I? Anyway, I think all the neighbors in my block appreciated the communication that I had with them about what we had, so we could all kind of watch out for one another. And let me tell you, I'm the only, well, now I've got a new neighbor, but I'm about the only neighbor that leaves my porch light on at night. And I think it's really important to do that. My dog is very excited to have just come in the door. So sorry about that. Yeah, so there's where we're at. The other thing I wanted to talk about is 311. If you guys aren't familiar with 311, it's a great tool that we have for Tacoma, City of Tacoma. It's kind of the all-in-one reporting system. You can report everything from a pothole in the street light out, drug house, rundown, broken down car, homeless camp, someone living in a car. There's a whole big list of things. But I like, you can go to Google Tacoma 311, or you can call the phone number 311 from a City of Tacoma phone. Or my favorite is the app. And you can actually put this app on your phone. And when you open this app, it is pretty cool. I'm going to pull it up here and show you. It's I don't know if you're able to see it very good with my lighting here. Tacoma First 311. This is what it looks like in here. And then you click and make a request is one of the selections. And then it's going to give you a whole list of different type of complaints or concerns that you might have. And I like the phone because when you use the phone, you can actually snap a photo and you can attach that photo to the 311 complaint. A lot of the 311 complaints come to the community liaison officers to handle. Some of them will be farmed out to street maintenance or something like that if it's, a pothole or such, but the community liaison officers handle all the small homeless encampments, or if you're a business owner, or even a homeowner, you might have, hopefully you don't have to deal with it, but you might have a homeless person end up on your front porch or in your back alleyway or in your bushes or something like that, and you need help with removing them. You can make a 311 complaint or call the police, and we can take care of that. You've got a person living in a car on your block. There's rules and regulations about how long they can live and do that. We will help handle that through the 311 app. We get all sorts of complaints and concerns through there. So really a great tool to contact police or any city entity that you might need assistance with. It'll get automatically assigned. Gives you a work order number, and you can actually trace that work order from start to finish to find out what is going on with your case to see how it was resolved. One thing I do want to say, you can do it anonymously, and that's fine to report anonymously, but it's pretty nice when we actually are able to contact you with some follow-up questions, and we'll keep you anonymous when we're talking to your neighbors if you've got a complaint about a neighbor, because you might be complaining about the condition of their yard or broken down boats or something in their driveway. We'll keep that all anonymous. The only issue would be that potentially they could do a public disclosure request and see who made the complaint against them, but not a lot of people are going to take the time to do that type of request. So, and my dog runs through and yanks on my cord to the computer. So sorry about that. So yeah. Are there any other things that I need to cover, Eric?
So we have one question from chat, and then I have a question.
Okay.
The question from chat is very relevant. Julia asks, what kind of dog do you have?
He is a mutt. He's like a 40-pound. He's supposed to be a Rottweiler Rottweiler Black Lab is what they guessed, but I don't think he is. I think he might have a little Rottweiler in him, but he's small and he's 2 and he's kind of wild. If I could get him near the camera. He's cute. He's super cute. Yeah, but I think my son took the garbage out right before I started this class, and I think he left the open on the side, and I think the dog snuck out and nobody noticed. And no.
Hey, but it's great that you have such good connections with your neighbors that they let him back in.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's
good.
So.
My question is, so you were talking about 311 and about how community members can utilize that to make requests that get directed to the CLOs. What has your work been like during COVID?
All right. So COVID, first, a couple changes. They had a split. So half of the community liaison officers worked from home, half worked in the office. And then those that were working from home did a lot of the background, a lot of the paperwork type things, research, phone calls, emails, and things that we could do from home. And then we were working with the officers that were in the city and communicating with them. Hey, could you go drive by this address and see if this homeless car is still sitting there? And, you know, so we are giving them, feeding them the information or giving them the requests of things that they needed, that we needed to do. So we were, I don't think we ever got behind in our work. We were able to keep it up pretty well doing that work from home, half and half thing. We did that for a couple months. You know, we're just really trying to limit our exposure to each other in the office and to the public and such. But now they're down to the community liaison officers are in the office 3 days a week. Most of us work 410s. So I work from home 1 day a week, Mondays, and then I'm in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'm off Friday. And that's the, you know, we're kind of rotating it that way, but we try to have coverage, somebody in the office, in the field that, you know, a community liaison officer's there Monday through Friday. You can always get a hold of one of us. So, yeah, and typically, you know, Eric will provide my email and phone number. Our website, our City of Tacoma website, when you go to community liaison officers, gives you a phone number for our substations, which were normally, pre-COVID, they were manned by a citizen volunteer that answered the door and the phone at our substations. If you're not familiar, we have 5 substations, one in Northeast Tacoma, one in the southwest side at Wapato Park, one in the southeast side down at Stewart Park, and then we have I'm in the north end at Candle Park, and then we also have the Hilltop location, which is right by St. Joseph's Hospital. So we're spread out, and so those are manned normally, usually 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. by a citizen volunteer. But with COVID, they've locked up the doors pretty much, and it's we try to limit the officers going in and out of the buildings. You know, they can put their lunch in the refrigerator, use the restrooms and things like that, but really trying to minimize the contact there. So the website takes you to the community liaison officer, or I'm sorry, the substation, and then someone sends you our phone number. But unfortunately, that phone line doesn't seem to get as checked as often as it probably should. So Eric probably has a list of every CLO's phone number, or at least email address, or you can get a hold of me and I will get you to the right person wherever you are within the city, and make sure you just have a CLO to talk to if you need one. But yeah, I think it's really important. I get people communicating with me. Like just today, I talked to a citizen. She's concerned about what's going on at her neighbor's house. She found a needle she believes is full of heroin, probably was, in the street next to a car that frequents her neighbor's house. So this neighbor has a 6-bedroom house, and they rent out the rooms individually to 6 different renters. I think a couple of them have a roommate. So there's a lot of adults in this house and some suspicious stuff going on. And then they find a drug needle next to a car. So now they're really heightened awareness about what's going on at this house. So I talked to them about notes I want her to take for me about comings and goings, trying to get me license plates for any like short stay traffic, which is indicative of drug activity. Typically, when you see somebody just coming by a house and staying for 2 to 3 minutes and driving away, or somebody coming out, maybe talking to each other real quickly and seeing hand to hand. So she's going to try to take photos for me if she can. She's going to try to get license plates for me. She's going to listen as much as she can to get names and try to figure out who people are. But if she can provide me license plates and things, I can start working case and doing research about who's there and who's coming and going. I can involve our drug unit to see if they have any leads or connections or things that they could investigate with this. I mean, we work real closely with the drug units. They may figure out a way to determine that they indeed are selling drugs there, and then they'll put together the search warrant, and the community liaison officers will go out and assist them with their serving the search warrant, and working whether or not it's a rental house or an owner-occupied house. We have all different procedures we do, but I'm going to start working with this particular neighbor to do some research about what's going on in the neighborhood or at this neighbor's house. And hopefully she's gonna, give me some cool information that I'm gonna be able to do something with. But I had to warn her that these kind of investigations can take a long time. Sometimes it just takes a while to get just that right bit of information that we need to get a search warrant, because the judge isn't just gonna give an officer a search warrant to go check a house just because the neighbors think there's drugs there, because a lot of people come to and from. We got to have a little more evidence. So it could be a year from now. Some I've seen them last 2 and 3 years till we finally were able to shut down a house. But our goal is to try to make your neighborhood safer, and we really appreciate all the neighbors that are willing to work with us and talk to us and tell us what's going on in their neighborhoods. Yeah.
Great. So we have another question in chat. And so from Sarah, she asks, what are the most useful things to remember about a person when calling to report to 911?
Description, like I mentioned. Don't be afraid to describe them. I mean, people oftentimes are afraid to say that, their race. Go ahead, tell us if they're white, black, Hispanic, whatever they may be, because that's a clear, descriptor of us helping to identify someone. Anything distinctive you can recall about them, something on their clothing, if you're able to make out a label or a logo, that's important to us. And another thing, if you're going to call 911, you're going to get asked a lot of questions about what's happening. And one of the questions I always like to ask is if you think someone has a weapon, because they want to let the officers know if there might be a weapon involved, because it's a whole, safety issue. So looking at their hands, what do you see in their hands? Did they have something? Were they holding something? Was it a cell phone? Could you tell? Did you think it could be a weapon? Even if you think it is, let us know, because, we'd rather be very cautious about it if there might be a weapon involved. But yeah, just be as descriptive as possible. And like, remember I said, head to toe, look at their top to bottom, and give us, that description. And as they walk away, trying to run through what you remembered. And another thing is practice when you see somebody at the store, you pass by them in the aisle in the grocery store, take a good look at them, make a mental note, turn that corner, and then ask yourself, what they look like again, and then try to find them in the store and see if you remembered right. That's just, practicing, I think is helpful. And, as I've been doing this nearly 22 years, and I know how to observe somebody, I know how to describe somebody, but it took practice, to get that, get it through your head, get an order, and try to do it. I always say, try to do it the same order every time. So you take note as to what they look like in the same way. It's going to help you not forget things.
Thank you. And then I actually had a follow-up from my previous question. So you talked a bit about how CLOs have been affected, how the substations have been affected. How have patrols been affected by COVID?
Oh, let's see. Patrol. Well, let me start with a couple things. The detectives, most of them are working from home right now to minimize contact in the offices. Obviously, they are going into the office when they have paperwork or things, or they're all responding. We've had a few homicides, unfortunately, in the last few weeks, and they all head out there, masks and whatnot as often as you can. As far as patrol officers go, we are still training a lot of new officers. So each day, the officers come into work, they have to have their temperature scanned. They are asked a series of questions about their health before they're allowed to go to work. And we have training officers and new hires that have to to ride, training people that are, new officers that are in training who have to ride with their training officer in that car every single day. So we are really asking that they are, being very careful about their health and exposure so that they can not get their partner sick. We're trying, and those officers are asked if they can, while they're riding together in the cars, to mask up, frequently hand wash and hand sanitize, to try to keep each other healthy as much as possible. When you also call 911, they ask everybody a series of questions. 911 operator will determine if there's a risk of COVID in your household or wherever the officers are responding to, so that they can be aware of that, that they need to take precautions. But right now we are supposed to be wearing our masks whenever possible. But take into consideration, I would never want to be involved in a situation where somebody said they couldn't understand what I said because I had a mask on my face. So if I'm yelling, "Stop, please, drop the gun," or something, it might be important to not have that mask on so that they could clearly hear me. I mean, I've been told many times that can't understand me, or I know you've probably heard someone in the store and you can't understand them because of that mask. So, we try to keep the distance between people, but there may be times you see officers not wearing their mask out in the field, and it's probably for good reason, because we want the communication to be there. We have people that need to read our lips. We have, the masks muffle, unfortunately, and some officers need to be heard. So if you see officers not wearing them, there might be good reason for them to not wear them. But we'll do whatever we can to stay back away from you, 6 feet or more distance, washing our hands frequently. I don't know how much hand sanitizer I've gone through in the last few months, but it's a ton in the patrol car, and we have it all over the station and whatnot. So, the officers that are coming to work are staying healthy. I'm not aware of any officers that have come down with COVID. Everybody seems, as far as I know, is pretty healthy at the department. If they've had an exposure, they've done the quarantine at home or, isolate at home, and before they've returned to work, making sure they're healthy.
Have there been a lot of officers that have gotten COVID?
Not that I'm aware of. It's kind of a HIPAA violation.
Sure.
Yeah, I've known of a couple that were exposed, and they stayed home for the required amount of time, and then came back to work, no problems. And they did not test positive. The few that I've talked to, but they took the necessary precautions to make sure that they were not going to expose other officers or the public if they were in fact positive.
Does anyone else in this room have any questions, whether to ask directly or through the chat? Does any Safe Streets employees or anyone else have it? I know that Darren has been streaming through Facebook as well for this meeting.
Oh.
I'm not certain. I know, yeah, we're so cross-platform. I'm not sure if Darren's had any kinds of questions or anything through Facebook, but this is also a good time for any of those questions.
Eric, Facebook, they just like freezing all the time, so I stop it.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
And then restart it. I don't know why, but personal is okay.
Okay, so it's maybe a good point for us to, we can take a break, unless Jennifer or Officer Terhar, was there anything else that you wanted to say before we're done from this section?
I think I covered everything that I normally go over, unless you think of anything that I missed or wanted.
No, yeah, I think that was great.
Remembers anything, but
it's good for us all to kind of shake off the rust a little bit.
Yeah. No, I just want to reiterate, we love our block watch groups. It'll be nice when we get back to meeting with everybody more frequently. Some of my groups, I've been still emailing them monthly when our meeting would be, to try to let them know what's going on in their neighborhood, if there's anything important.
Actually, Jennifer, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Who are the Sector 1 JLOs?
We have Corey Payton.
Okay.
Beck.
Who?
And Ryan Beck, Beck.
Okay.
and Meffen, Meffen.
Scott.
Scott, yes. I was
Who?
drawing a blank.
Scott.
First name,
Okay.
Scott Meffen. And
Okay.
commander over there is Lieutenant.
Aguirre?
No, she's moved to the homeless outreach
Oh,
mental.
that's right.
Yeah,
I forgot. Yeah.
yeah.
sorry.
So it is Jennifer Mueller.
Mueller. Okay.
Mueller.
Mueller. Okay.
Yeah. Because I think it's is it MDC up there on MLK? They've been having a lot of vandalism deaths, and they were trying to connect us. We were trying to connect them with Sector 1 CLOs, but to be honest with you, because I haven't been in the field for a while, and I just didn't know who the CLOs were up there.
Yeah, yeah.
There are a lot of changes.
Yeah, if you need me to shoot you an email list of everybody, I can.
Would you please? I would appreciate that. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and if you could include me as well, actually, that would be really great. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that, you know,
Yeah.
I haven't been able to connect with Lieutenant Mueller yet. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, she was in, and then she had to go out for a short stint for an injury, and then she's, I believe she's back. And then we have Lieutenant Darlington in Sector
Yep.
2. He's been with us for I don't know, probably close to a year, but
Yeah.
it's we had some changes for sure. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering my question.
yes, and now my cat decided to climb on the dining room table.
Oh, yay.
And meow. So anyway, all right. The pleasures of working from home, right?
yeah, really. Okay, well, thank you so much, Officer Terhar, for coming into this. We really, really appreciate that you're able to, connect with us even during COVID and answer some questions. And it's always good just to get a refresher on how things work.
Yeah, yeah. And feel free, if you have questions after this is over and you remember or think of something, shoot me an email. If I don't have the answer, I'll find it for you or I'll point you in the right direction. So.
Okay, sounds great. So, yeah, thank you. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
So for everybody else that's here, I'm going to go ahead and check in with the other room. So feel free to put yourself on mute. We can take a short break. I'm not sure exactly how long it's going to be, so try to stay close. It'll probably be at least, let's say at least, we'll check back in at 7:10 just to see kind of what's going on. I'm going to pop into the other room and just see how it's going. And so, yeah, feel free to take a break.
Have a backup plan if you are far out like that. But that's kind of a nutshell about the 911 process. They say we get the call takers, it goes to dispatcher, then it gets dispatched to deputies, and depending on where you are in the county, depends on the response time that you're going to get from us. All right. Any other questions about anything or anything else that I can cover?
I think that's the best description that we've had of the time that it takes. Normally we get a scripted answer of someone reading off of a PowerPoint. So I'm glad your PowerPoint did not work. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I'm glad your PowerPoint did not work. Thank you, Sarah, for those questions. And Eric's back, so that must mean that the other side is done.
Yeah, so we did just finish in the other room. So what I'm going to do, and if there aren't any other questions in this room, I'm going to go ahead and shut down this breakout room so that we can reconvene in the main room. I told them that we would take at least a break until 7:10, but I suspect we'll probably be breaking until 7:15. Just give everybody 10 minutes break. So I'm going to go ahead and close this breakout room. We'll reconnect in the other room, and then next up is going to be Southtown 911. So yeah.
Kim or Michael, do you guys have any questions? This is your one shot. You got a one-on-one with the deputy. Nope. Okay.
Nope.
Oh.
You covered it.
Okay.
Yay, good job.
Any specific problems? You got a couple minutes here. If there's a specific problem you have a question with that you just want to ask about.
I wasn't sure. Do you guys cover South Hill area, or is that not part of what you do?
Yeah, that would be South Hill is unincorporated Pierce County. So from the border's kind of funky, but on Meridian, everything south of like 122nd in Meridian is going to be in Pierce County.
Because I was kind of interested in the business part where you guys, I think you said maybe you guys come and see for a business if it's attracting crime or how it can detract crime.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we do, and a lot of times we try to make sure that everybody has a trespass agreement with us, so that when your business is closed, if deputies see somebody that's loitering around your parking lot at night and they shouldn't be there, we can just go ahead and trespass them without, we already have your permission with this trespass agreement. So that's one of the first things we might set up. We talk about signage or surveillance cameras. Then also someone like Roxanne could come in and help with doing a crime prevention through environmental design survey. And what they do is look at, there's not enough light here. Maybe your trees are too big and you need to limb them up so that you can see better, or other people can see onto your property better. Or sometimes we've told people you need to just close half of your parking lot. No one parks there except for people that are using drugs or staying overnight. So those are the kind of things that we can come out and talk to you about.
So how would I get a hold of you to look into that?
Just go ahead and call my office. Got a
Okay.
pen handy. It'd be 253-798-4816.
Ask for you.
Well, you could just talk to Amanda Kenyon, is the community coordinator. So she would be the one that you would talk to and just tell her what the problems are. She'll take all the notes about it, and then she can assign it to me, or she'll send an email to the deputy that works that.
Okay. We're just moving in probably in December, so I just thought while we're moving into a new business, it might be neat to have somebody come out and look.
Yeah, that's always a great idea, and we could also tell you about some of the challenges that other businesses have in your area.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Michael, anything? Michael, are you even here?
Say, Michael has been splitting his time between both, and since he's on his iPad, I don't know if his microphone is working. There it is. He's written in the chat, tech skills lack, issue turning on my mic. He's here,
Okay.
but I guess he doesn't have any questions.
All right.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and close this breakout room. Feel free to keep chatting in the other room though. It'll just be in a, kind of off the clock way. So hold on one moment. Okay, so for everybody in this room, we're going to go ahead and take a break. I think that we should probably take, let's go with another 5 minutes. So we'll come back at 7:15. So if everyone would like to take a break.
Hey, Connor, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Did you guys need me for anything else for the rest of the event?
I don't think so, unless somebody comes up with another random question, but we can always reach out to you if you need to leave for something.
Okay, I'm going to go check on my kids, and then I'll just leave this on mute, and I'll come back and check on it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Eric, are you still there?
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. So we're currently waiting for our South Sound 911 representative to join us that we can start on to the next section. I did just kind of want to give it some space if anybody had any current questions that they thought of during this short break, or if there's anything that really stuck out to you of what you've heard so far. This is the time to share that. Or if we'd all prefer, we can extend the break by another 5 minutes or so. I know that I was just checking into the presidential debate, and that's it's good. It's a good time to take a little bit of an extra break if we need to. Does anybody have any questions or comments so far? Okay, so it sounds like everyone is pretty contented right now. So let me just reach out to our South Sound 911 representative, and then I will be getting right back to you. So please feel free to just hang out for a little bit longer.
Eric,
Yes, Darren.
I'm really disappointed when I don't know why. It's last time when during the when I do a Facebook, it freeze when but outside it's okay, but copy it from here the second time already. I try to stop it and then try to share, and then it disappeared. I didn't have a chance to share. Any idea why? Is it probably direct to the screen?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why it would do that.
But with my personal camera was okay. But because they eat a lot of data, last time when I used with the Superstar Breakfast, but when I did it tonight, the same thing. It freeze, and then you can't share. Like it's like, okay, when you talk, yeah, record it, and then suddenly it freeze right there. Disappointed. This is a good topic to share with the new people, the new resident participate. This is a good info.
Okay, so I've just received word from our South Sound 911 presenter. So it sounds like she'll be ready in about 5 minutes. So we'll go ahead and extend this break until 7:25.
Thank you. Connor, are you watching a debate?
Hi there, welcome, Kathy.
Hey, Kathy. Glad you could make it. On the back end a little bit, but
And
to
welcome
answer your
back.
question, Darren, I am not. I don't have. I really don't have TV at all. So
Welcome back, Mike. And so for the two of you just joining us or just rejoining us, we're taking another we're extending the break by another 5 minutes. And then we should have our South Sound 911 representative at about 7:25. And then she'll be able to present on the inner workings of South Sound 911, which is truly a fascinating subject. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Hi, welcome, Katie.
Hey.
And so I gave people a break until 7:25, and so we can get started in a
That's
couple
good.
minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
And do you have any slides that you'd like to present?
I don't today.
Oh,
It's just
great.
gonna be me.
Awesome. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties earlier for the
Yeah,
law enforcement, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. I've had some kind of hit and miss with that, so I decided I would just not this time
Yeah.
around and see how it goes.
Being all virtual has a learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. I was happy that it was because I know it was going to be on Microsoft Meetings, I think, for a while.
It's
And I'm
going
not
to be
super,
on Teams, yeah.
yeah, and I wasn't super confident with that, but I was like, Zoom I can do. I've done Zoom enough times now that I can work it. So
Okay, so it's 7:25 now by my clock. And so hopefully we're all ready to move on to the next section. And so we have with us Katie Baker of South Sound 911, and she'll be talking a little bit about the inner workings of South Sound 911 and what to expect when you call and some best practices. So take it away.
Alrighty. So yes, my name is Katie Baker. I'm a communications officer and trainer at South Sound 911. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. I also kind of play around with our social media sometimes with our manager, Chris McNamara, who does all of that for community relations. So I sometimes do these videos called Coffee with a Call Taker. So if anyone's seen those, that's me. I don't have my glasses on today, but that is me doing those because I love sharing just little facts on 911 and how you guys can better be ready, essentially, if you ever have to call 911, what to expect. So I wanted to start off with a story I had about a year ago. I had a woman calling and she reported a suspicious person. There really wasn't anything that this guy was doing other than just standing there holding a rock. But she thought that was very strange. She kept telling me, well, I don't know if I should be calling. I feel kind of weird for calling. I just think someone should check it out. But she felt kind of apologetic for calling 911. But I said, no problem. If you have some kind of gut feeling about it, we'll have someone check on it. So I had a deputy go out there and check. And sure enough, this guy had a warrant for child endangerment. And he was actually by an elementary school. Just kind of this weird situation. So she trusted her gut and called us, and we were able to help her out. So I counted on her essentially for her reports, and that's what we do here. We count on you guys to call us. And then she counted on me and the deputy that responded to check him out in a timely manner. And sure enough, there was something that was suspicious about him. So she helped us a lot by calling that in. So that's how we can keep our streets safe, essentially, by counting on each other. So today I'm just going to shed some light on when you should call 911, what to expect when you do that, and some maybe proactive tips for us that are going to help us as call takers and 911 dispatchers in the long run. So big question is, when should you call 911? So we have 3 big sections basically in our 911 call center. There's emergency calls, there's priority calls, and then there is non-emergency calls. An emergency call is a life-threatening situation that's happening right now. So that would be obviously if someone's been shot, stabbed, armed robbery, officer needs help, domestic violence that involves a weapon. We consider that a priority 1 or even a priority 0 call, which are the highest priority calls we have in our call system here. A priority situation, so that was the emergency calls, true emergencies. Something is happening right now that we need to get help to. The second level, step down, essentially, is the priority calls. Still a 911 situation. You always want to call for those, but these are situations that are imminent danger to life or property that's occurring now or just happened. So if you're watching somebody key somebody's car, maybe it's your car, that's in progress, that's still a priority situation. So you want to call 911 for that. If someone just stole a package from your porch and you're watching them take off, that's something that you want to call 911 for. If you're hearing someone arguing, you're not even watching it happen, but you're hearing someone yell at someone else, that's considered a priority situation. We have a lot of people that call the routine or non-emergency line for that. And you really should be calling the 911 center for that, because we don't know what's going on with the argument. Maybe someone has a weapon and you don't know. Maybe it's escalated into a fight and you're not hearing it. So that's something that we still want you to call 911 for, even if you're just hearing some arguing going on. Then we have the final section, which is the routine or non-emergency situations. So our exact word-for-word definition for that in the call center is all other incidents where the situation is over, there is no threat to life or property, and there's no chance of apprehending the suspect. So we consider those things violations of a court order where it's over the phone or text, that person's not with you, maybe they're out of state, completely no chance of finding that guy in your neighborhood right now. That's considered a routine situation. You wake up in the morning, it's happened to me, your car's been broken into, that happened overnight, we don't have a suspect, we have nothing other than this has happened, that's a routine or non-emergency situation. So I don't know if people are writing this down or not or taking notes, but if you are, I have the routine phone number for you guys. It's 253-798-4721. And that's our non-emergency line. So you can write that down somewhere, just have it if you ever need to call us. I hope you don't, but if you do, it's there for you. Again, that's going to be 253-798-4721. Should anyone, I don't think anyone here would need it, but we do have an 800 number version of that. It still gets to us. The 800 number is 800-562-9800. And I'll say that again. That's 800-562-9800. So now going into when you maybe don't have that non-emergency number, and you think it's, well, I don't have it, so I can't find it for some reason, so I'm just going to call 911. Try your very best, unless you're driving or something and you don't have any other way of looking it up, to look it up and call the non-emergency line instead of 911 and ask to be transferred. The reason we don't want to do that is because as a call taker, I take both the 911 lines and the routine lines. So if you are reporting something that has not happened, or that's already happened yesterday, there's no suspects in the area now, and you call 911, at the same time, someone else in the Pierce County area is calling 911 because they've been stabbed. If you both call 911, it comes into me at exactly the same time. I pretty much just pick one because they came in at exactly the same time. There's both 911 lines. So if I just happen to pick up yours and you're reporting the non-emergency, asking to be transferred, meanwhile, this person who just got stabbed is waiting for me to get to the phone, I have to still screen your call, make sure that you aren't reporting an emergency, and put you on hold for either me to pick up later or for my partner to get, versus this person who's now waited maybe 10, 15 seconds for me to get to their line. So if you really want to avoid doing that at all possible, and either look at your notes that hopefully you just took, or look it up online. If you don't know where to look, our website's a great place to look for the non-emergency line. It's southsound911.org. I'm sure the law enforcement has already talked to you guys about that, but that's website. The first thing you see on it is emergency ? 911. If it is, and then right underneath that, it's going to say non-emergency phone numbers are these. So it's going to give you the 253 and the 800 number there as well, if you can't find it. So please try and avoid calling 911 unless, of course, it's a priority or emergency situation. I'm looking at my notes here. I apologize for the pause. Let's see. Okay, so we've determined when you should call 911 and when you should call the routine line. So if you truly do have an emergency or a priority situation, you have to call 911. I hope you never do, but if you do, usually people only have to truly call 911 once or twice in their entire life. So it's very normal to not know what to do or what to expect. And we know that as call takers. We know this is probably a first time for you, so we're here to help you through it. So the first question we're going to ask is, what are you reporting? We want what's happening right now. We don't need the story of why this happened, or, well, 2 weeks ago this happened and now this is happening. We want to know what's going on right now. I've had people try and tell me a story of what happened, and then about a minute into the phone conversation, they tell me that someone is deceased. We don't want that. Please tell me that someone's been deceased first, or is deceased first, and then tell me the story if you need to. We don't want to delay help to you or to anybody. So just go ahead and tell us what's going on right now, just short and sweet. The next situation or next question we're going to ask is, where are you? So after we determined what is going on and what kind of help you need, we're going to ask you for your location. Hopefully you know it and you can just tell us. But if you don't, or maybe you're driving and you're not sure, or this is your friend's house, you want to help us help you. So looking for a street and a cross street is really helpful. Sometimes you have those really long backcountry roads that don't have a cross street. All you have is the one street. But what you can often do is you'll see that there's going to be mailboxes on the side of the road leading out to properties that go way past the main road you're on, but they're going to give you a house number usually, and you can tell us that, and we can kind of work on finding location that way. Landmarks are good. Businesses, schools, anything you see can be very helpful. And a lot of us live in Pierce County as well. So sometimes all you'll have is like some odd looking giant rock, and you're like, I don't know, I'm looking at this giant rock, and sometimes we'll like, I know that rock, I know exactly where you are. So anything helps. Just help us help you so we can determine where to send help to you. Sometimes people assume that all cell phones are magic and we know immediately where you are, exactly where, and we can just send help to you without really asking any questions. Cell phones can help us, definitely, depending on how updated your phone is, what kind of phone you have. We do get lat and long from the cell phones usually, but sometimes I'll look at my phone board and it'll tell me I have a lat and long of where you are, but then it also tells me the uncertainty is a radius of 1,000 meters. So not super helpful. Or I'm hoping it's more accurate than that, but that is the uncertainty. So I can't really trust that. We do have a system called Rapid SOS that we use. Law enforcement might have talked about a little bit, but basically what we can do is put in the phone number you're calling from. And if your phone has been updated or has these certain features on it, not all the phones do, we can use that for a much closer and accurate location. Still though, not 100% accurate. It gets us close, but usually not perfect. And on top of that, we're not sure if your phone even has the capability for us to access that feature. So if you can help us find where you are, that would be the best. I was watching the 911 Fox show, not the new one that just came out last night. I hear that one's actually pretty good, but there's a fictional Fox 911 show. And I guess in season 3, I think, one of the call takers hacks into a caller's drone and like is able to find exactly where she is and all this stuff. And that would be awesome. I would love to be able to hack into drones, but I just can't. So I have to have you help me, even if I'm looking at a giant oddly shaped rock. That's something, and I'll take it. Let's see. So once we've determined location, what you're reporting location, if it is a medical or a fire problem, someone's having a stroke, my stove's on fire, that is something we actually transfer to a different dispatch center. It's still within South Sound 911. I work on the law enforcement side, but there we do have a fire comm. So they handle any of the fires or the medical problems. So what happens is sometimes people think I've put them on hold or something like that. I would never put a medical issue or a fire issue on hold. What I'm doing is I'm transferring it to our fire dispatch center. What they're going to do after that is they are going to ask for your address that we worked on, or I will give them some kind of landmark so they know where you are. I'll help you out in the transfer to their dispatch center. They're going to ask for the address again. It's not because I forgot it. It's not because they weren't listening or I wasn't listening. It's because they are going to make sure that they verified it for you. So if you're giving it to them, or maybe I'll give it to them, depending on the situation, they're going to say, caller, is your address this? Or are you by Wilson High School? Are you by Callis Junior High? They're going to make sure, they want to make sure it's right. So don't think that we weren't paying attention or listening. We are, we just want to make sure it's right, because we'd really hate to go to the wrong place while you still need help somewhere else. That's the only reason they're going to ask twice. Then they're going to ask you a lot of questions. I wish I could speak more on that side of it. I don't work for them, so I don't want to give them word for word, but they're going to ask you if it's a medical problem, medical history, all of that. Are they breathing okay? Things like that. Fires, obviously. Where's the fire? What's going on with that? But for the law enforcement side, we're going to ask you a lot of questions as well. I get this a lot when people call 911 for something. They say, why are you asking me so many questions? And I get it. It's a lot. We all do 6 months of super intense training to basically memorize all those questions that we're required to ask you. They all are super important for your safety and for the officer's safety. And I think sometimes people think, I'm going to ask you all of these questions, and then I'm going to tell the officer that you were just robbed at gunpoint. Not the case. So what will happen is you will say, I was just robbed at gunpoint. I'll get your location, and my text, essentially, I put it in my computer. It says, I asked how many minutes ago. You were robbed 1 minute ago. I'm going to say 1 ago to RP, which is reporting party, which is the caller, you, at GP, which stands for gunpoint. It takes me maybe 10 seconds to type that in, probably a lot less. and then I'm entering it into my computer system and the officers know about it. That's as little amount of information that I'm getting and sending to my units. Pretty much as you're telling me, I'm telling them. You can't hear me, of course, because I'm talking to you and I'm doing it on my computer with the officer. So my questions following that are not delaying help. Officers already know about it. So the next question is, where did they go? Did they leave on foot or in a vehicle? What did they look like? What did their weapon look like? What was the gun? What color was it? Did they have gloves on? Because if they did, then we're going to need to know that for identities or like situations. Did they have anyone else with them? What did they take if you were robbed at gunpoint? Do you know them? We have so many questions, and I get it when you're stressed out, and especially when you're stressed out, it's going to seem like I'm taking half an hour to ask these things, but I promise you it's been maybe 2 minutes at the most. And probably while I'm asking you those questions, you're seeing the officers arriving and they're like, oh, the officer's here. Okay, well, I'm gonna let you go then. You can tell the rest of that to them. So it's not delaying help, all the questions we're asking, and they all are super important, because while the officers are flying out to you because you're
It looks like Katie might have frozen.
Uh-oh.
So we'll give it a sec. That was a rough time to freeze. I was really into that story.
I know.
Well, we can give her a few moments to join back up. I know that there's a few people here where it's your first time. I know that I've heard this quite a few times, and it's always good and nice and refreshing to hear it from somebody that you haven't heard it from before, because you hear this information over and over, but every time you get a little bit of something new from it, that's just really, really beneficial.
I'm taking lots of notes. This is really good.
Oh, good.
Good. Has there been anything that to anyone, not just to put Kim on the spot, but has there been anything that anyone has been really surprised by or has really stuck out to them so far?
I like that she just said it's important for, I mean, now I know that as they're asking questions, they're typing it all up and it's already going to the police officers and things are happening. So even for me, when I'm talking to friends or people, you know, about 911, that would be a good thing to tell them, that they will ask a lot of questions, but they're getting things done while they're asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know that was something that I hadn't really thought of before either. Just, you know, that they're typing stuff as they're going, and then even the call takers and the dispatchers are separate people, and so there's kind of like a three chain connection between the caller, the call taker, the dispatcher, and then the first responders. So it's quite a smooth machine. And I did just get an update from Katie. She's saying that her internet went down, and so she's trying to reconnect right now. So I'm sure that it'll just be a couple more minutes. Yeah. I know that for a lot of people too, it's kind of surprising that the non-emergency and the emergency line are answered by the same people. I think that there's a lot of, I think just people don't really think about what the actual call center looks like, and the fact that when it comes down to it, there's only like 10 people taking calls for the entire area that South Sound 911 covers. I'm not sure if she's going to mention it, but I know that South Sound 911 covers all of what is it? Pierce, Thurston, I think maybe King, Lewis counties, and I think one of the other ones around us. So it's like 20 or 30 different jurisdictions and agencies that they report for, that they take calls for. So it's a really, really big deal. And on a given shift, they don't have that many people on. So it's especially impressive how many calls each individual has to respond to. Oh, and it looks like Kathy also mentioned that she appreciates that she assured people to trust their gut. And I think that that's a really good point as well. To any of the Safe Street staff, has anything stuck out to you that you forgot about or that you heard in a new way?
Something that's interested me, and I think we're going to need clarification on this. What we've talked before is usually, when in doubt, escalate if you're not sure whether to call non-emergency or 911. But I need to kind of clarify on this because they seem to be kind of going the other direction on this.
Mm.
I don't know if that's new or...
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I think that's something we can ask. I think that I took it as if you're able to call non-emergency for non-emergencies, then that's preferable. I suspect what she'll say though is that if you don't know the difference, you just call 911.
These are
I've
good things.
usually said to someone, go with your gut instinct, and they know best if it's an emergency. They can figure out easier if it's an emergency or not, but go with your gut instinct. If you think it's an emergency, then treat it as such. They can decide, but then sometimes there have been some that have called in and said that they have made them feel absolutely stupid.
Absolutely,
So,
what? It cut out a little bit.
stupid.
Oh,
And so then we say, well, you can always afterwards call back and ask for a supervisor if you've been made to feel that way. You know, they are. I understand that they do get stressed. They take a lot of calls because there's only so many people that are there. You may have perceived that they treated you that way. They have a set amount of questions in a set order that they need to ask because they are relaying that information while they are asking you, because that dispatch is relaying it to the deputies, to the police, to whoever they need to get it to. And they aren't necessarily trying to make you feel bad. They just need
I'm
to get those
back.
questions
Yay.
Yay!
Sorry about that. All of a sudden, just like
Talking.
shut down. I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't get it back. Can I still, do I have time? Can I still?
oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. I was like, I gotta love coronavirus and the pandemic. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and really quick, I think that there might have been one other question floating around
Okay.
that someone had to bring up. Maybe not.
Question?
Okay,
we're
I thought I had heard someone start to ask a question, but maybe I was
Okay.
mistaken.
All right, speak up if anyone has a question. That's what I'm here for. I don't even remember where I was, so let's see. Stay on the phone. Don't hang up, please. We're gonna have lots of questions for you, and sometimes people will call, tell me something really crazy, like some guy just got shot, and then they'll just hang up. That leaves it really fun for us, and it's really fun for the officers to come and try and find what's happening or what's happened. Did you actually see someone get shot? Did you just hear someone else say someone had been shot? We have so many questions. Where are you? Who was it? Did you shoot them? You know, we have so many questions for you. So try and stay on the phone if you can, unless it is unsafe to do so. So that's where we have our program text to 911. All you have to do is just literally text the number 911. It'll get to us. Our phrase for that is call if you can, text if you can't. So if for some reason it's unsafe for you to call, you can always text us what's going on as well. And we have this little, it looks pretty much just like it would on your phone. It comes into our computer and we can talk to you that way. On that note, if you're calling and suddenly something happens and you're no longer safe to talk to us, there's a couple of things you can do. You can put your, if it's safe, of course, you have to kind of read the situation, but if it's safe, you can put your phone on speaker and then hide it somewhere so we can listen. You can also just start to answer yes or no questions. That can be something that I've definitely done before. You know, can you speak freely? No. Is this your boyfriend? No. Husband? Yes. Do they have a weapon? Yes. Is it a gun? No. Is it a knife? Yes. And we can do it that way if we must. I know for several years ago, a woman called 911 ordering a pizza, but really she was in an emergency situation. That's a great way to do it, but ordering a pizza is not code for us. Like, ooh, they're ordering a pizza. Like this is an emergency situation. So make sure you're actually listening to the questions we're asking so we can determine, is this a prank call or is this real and we need to get some help to you. I've also pretended to be a sister or a mom to somebody. You know, hey mom, yeah, nothing's really going on, just calling to say hi. And we can determine that you're trying to be sneaky and call us. So there are ways to do that if you feel unsafe to actually be talking to 911 and letting the person know that you're calling 911. But if it is safe for you to stay on the phone, we might ask you to stay on the phone with us if there's a weapon in play, or if you're armed or someone else is armed, or maybe a weapon was, you know, armed robbery or something like that. We're going to ask you to stay on the phone with us until officers get out there. If the situation seems to be changing really quickly, like at first it was an argument, just yelling at each other, then it turned physical, and now all of a sudden we hear some guy screaming he's going to get a gun, that's going to be something we're going to stay on the phone for you as well. If you see a suspect actively doing a crime as well, often stores or employees will call us because they're watching someone conceal items and attempt to shoplift. We'll usually keep them on the phone so we can update the responding units as to where exactly they are and when they take off, and are they going to take off in a car, on foot, etc. You can also ask to stay on the phone. Some people don't feel comfortable doing that, but if you're in a situation where you really don't feel safe disconnecting, you can tell us, and we will stay on the phone with you. Just say, you know, this is just kind of odd. I just don't really feel safe. I don't know who this guy is. Can you stay on the phone with me? Absolutely. That's what we're here for. So go ahead and ask if you feel safe, if you don't feel safe, and we'll just stay on the phone with you until the officers come and talk to you. So often I will wait until, even if you see a unit arriving to your house, I'll usually wait until they're actually walking up the steps and talking to you before I disconnect the line. So it's okay to ask that. So what can you do? I've already kind of talked about some things that you can do to help us. A lot of this is probably what the officers have already kind of explained to you guys, so it might be a little repetitive. But being proactive. So for chronic issues, sometimes people call 911 just to report that, you know, past month we've had speeding on this road. And I understand that that's frustrating, and that's definitely something you want to let someone know, but it's not a 911 situation. So to keep our 911 lines free, if you can actually talk to the departments directly, just letting them know, hey, this is going on. I just wonder if we can have extra patrols in the area or things like that. They can work with you on that type of situation. Back to the location, having an address, we know that sometimes, I definitely know that when even if you lived in a house for 20 years, if something truly urgent is happening, it's normal to forget your address. And I'll even have people say, like, my address is, I don't know what it is, and I've lived here for 20 years and I don't know why this is happening to me right now. It's because you're completely panicking and stressed, obviously, as anyone would be. We know that. We're not going to make fun of you or something because you don't know your address or you can't remember it at the time. So what you can do to help that is, should you ever need to call 911, you can always put it somewhere, like hide it in the back of a kitchen cabinet or something that you can easily grab and look at if you ever are panicking and need to know your address, and you may forget it. You probably will. Even if you're listening to me right now saying, I will never forget my address, I'm sure you easily could. I know I definitely could, depending on what's going on. Your brain is just not functioning the way it normally does, obviously, due to the high amount of stress you're under. So for us, if you can have it somewhere in a safe place just so you can grab if you ever need it, that would be great and can help us get to you as fast as possible. I think, again, this is more of a law enforcement thing, but it works for us as well. Consider setting up security cameras so you have video surveillance to look at for possible suspect descriptions. Often I may not ask for that. Can you go look at your camera and then tell me? I'm going to have help being sent out to you already. But if later while we're talking, all my questions have been answered, I might, if you, hey, I can pull that up for you while we're talking, that'd be great. And we can get more specific suspect information that way. Also, that sometimes is, well, it's definitely something that the officers are very interested in. So if you can get that, that would be great. For us, on that note, paying special attention to things like license plates or unique clothing features, or they had, you know, a whole bunch of piercings on their ear or something like that. Little things can actually make a big difference when we're trying to find a suspect or a fleeing vehicle. License plates especially. I have had people, though, put themselves or others at risk by chasing after a fleeing car, trying to get the license plates. Please don't do that for lots of reasons, but one of them is because we care about your safety the most. Don't risk your own life or safety just to get a piece of suspect information. We would never want you to do that. I've even asked people, hey, well, if it's safe, can you do, you know, can you see this? And they'll actually just start walking over to like the suspect's house. No, you don't have to do that. If you can see it from where you're at, that's great. If not, don't worry about it. Just say, you know, I can't really see it from where I am. That is fine. I don't think, with my whole internet issue, I don't think I got into that a little bit. When we ask a question and you don't know the answer, please just let us know you don't know, or, hey, that's I can't get too close to him. I don't want to put myself at risk. That's absolutely fine. Saying I don't know to a question is 1,000 times better than guessing or putting yourself in harm's way. So if you guess and it's wrong, you know, hey, I think the suspect was wearing a pink hoodie, and yeah, he definitely was wearing a pink hoodie, and the guy was actually wearing a black hoodie, and the officer is going this way, and the guy in the black hoodie is walking this way. We're not looking for him, and we stop someone who's wearing a pink hoodie, and he has nothing to do with the situation at all. So it can be really unsafe for officers and for bystanders if we have wrong information. So if you don't know, just tell us you don't know, so we can just move on to the next question, and never put yourself at risk to obtain information that we're asking, ever, please. Please don't do that. So that's pretty much all I have for the 911. I mean, there's a lot we can talk about. I'm sure you guys have questions. But going back into my little story earlier about the suspicious person, she felt kind of silly for calling. She definitely thought it was kind of something she probably shouldn't call about, but she wanted to put it out there anyway. And it turned out that it really was somebody that we wanted to know about. So again, it's really a community effort and a team effort. Whenever you call 911, I hope you never have to. But if you do, we're here to help you, and you can help us. So if you can just try and take a deep breath. I know the things that people go through on 911 can be extremely traumatic. But try your best to listen to the questions we're asking. They're extremely important, and they're all to get you and the person that the call is involving help. They're never to waste time or to ask just because. They're all super important. So try and take a deep breath and try and listen to the best of your ability. And we're going to help you achieve hopefully some level of calm, just so we can get through the situation together. And we'll stay on the phone with you until the officer gets out there to take it from there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah, thanks for your patience. Well, I got my internet.
Yeah, it's been you know, just it's a virtual meeting, and so I think everyone has a little bit of grace when it comes to what goes on. Does anybody have any questions for Katie? Any questions about 911, the experience, follow-ups? Yeah, Kathy.
Yes, and I always like to make sure that you know that I'm really here. So in our community, we're really excited to have Safe Streets join us. And just, and we have this great Facebook page, and then people were all excited, and I don't blame them, because there was this, we've been seeing a lot of suspicious cars in our neighborhoods, and especially around kids, and looking at the kids, and and then a neighbor would actually go out there and confront them, and as they were walking out, they would drive away. Would you consider that would that be 911, or would that be non-emergency if they're actually there doing it and everybody's like, whoa, this is a different kind of vehicle in our neighborhood?
Yes, that's a great question. And that's definitely something you want to call 911 for. If someone is suspicious, acting odd, and you're looking at them right now, that's definitely something we consider imminent danger to life or property, because we don't know. Maybe they are just kind of hanging out. That could be the case, but that could also be a little suspicious, especially if they're watching kids and stuff just acting odd. We consider that a priority situation. We don't consider it an emergency, but we do consider it a priority, and that is something that we'd want you to call 911 for, definitely.
Very good. Then that's something, if we see on our Facebook page and everybody's talking about it, we would say, call 911.
Yeah, if you're looking at that, call us. We'll be there for you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? It's not often you get a 911 call taker that you can just ask directly. So does anybody have anything?
Okay, I have a question. I want to know like a really crazy 911 call story that you have.
Oh boy, I always get asked this question. I feel like I fail like expectations every time.
Oh no, that's fine. I will just write it in my diary.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I definitely had, let's see, what are some good ones that I've had? Definitely the trauma ones that were just really unexpected. My first call of the night once was a murder suicide. I get a little headset on and 911, what are you reporting? And then they tell me what happened, and that was just like first night, like first day back.
Wow.
It was pretty crazy. So that was probably one of the crazier ones.
How do you like stay calm during some calls that are really like a big deal like that? Like,
yeah, I think for me, what I know is that I am responsible for this person and what they're going through in these few minutes I have with them, because once I'm off the phone, it's because the officer is there and they're taking it from there. They're handling the bad guys, they're talking to the victims. But at this point in my life, in these 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long it's going to take them to get there, I'm your sole person, your sole point of contact, essentially, until help gets out there. So that responsibility of me, I'm the only one you have, essentially, right at this moment. We have lots of people coming to you if something like that happens.
Yeah.
Just at a phone call, I need to stay calm so that hopefully you can not be quite as excited, because if I'm thinking something, if I'm getting excited and I'm getting nervous, you're going to hear that in my voice. So I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to know that we're going to help out to you, and the situation is going to be under control in just a matter of minutes until the deputies or the officers get out there.
Yeah, right. What a big job. That's great. That's so cool.
And we're always hiring. So if anyone thinks
we're
super awesome, you can look at our website and find our hiring policies. We're always looking for people.
All right, I'm coming.
Okay, come on in, friend.
Any other questions?
Coming off from that kind of discussion, that kind of situation, we talked, most of the stuff here that we talked about was most regards kind of connecting with police, which makes sense considering our situation. But in terms of like medical emergencies, can you help with like CPR type stuff?
So I am not at this point. We are in talk of being a universal call taker. So that means I would handle all the medical and the fire and the law enforcement. But at this point, it's still a separate dispatch center, still part of Southside 911, but it is a different group that specializes in that. So if you're having someone's doing CPR right now, I get the address, I transfer it over to our fire partners, and I say, hey, this is the address. They're doing CPR on someone right now. They are trained and they will walk you through it. They're probably going to ask, is anyone there trained in CPR? If so, they might not need to walk you through it, but often you aren't. So they're going to tell you, 1, 2, 3, and they're going to count with you until the medics get out there, and the medics will take over. Or I also on that note, I also put it out for law enforcement as well. Hey, someone's doing CPR. So if there's somebody who is really close by, they might stop, and an officer might get there before a medic does, just because they're also trained in CPR.
Okay.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay, well, thank you so much, Katie, for presenting. I was saying during our unplanned break that even for us mobilizers who work at Safe Streets and we hear this presentation, not often, but more often than most, every time I hear it from a new person, there's always something that I hadn't really thought about or that I hear a little bit differently that connects. So thank you for coming out and talking about.
Thanks for inviting us. This was really fun. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Appreciate it.
And so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move into the last section of the awareness and safety training. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And so since we don't have a whole lot of people, I'm thinking, and we're a little bit ahead of schedule, we'll go ahead and we'll just power through, and I anticipate we'll probably be done in less than 20 minutes or so. So yeah, we'll go ahead and move into the final section. So one moment. Okay, so the final section of the awareness and safety training comes to some awareness and safety recommendations and our kind of observe and report session. And so this list of different recommendations, different kind of best practices was developed throughout Safe Streets relationships with the individual block watch groups, the more modern community groups that maybe don't participate in block watch, formally, but do neighborhood walkabouts, as well as through our relationships with Southside 911, Tacoma Police, and Pierce County Sheriff's Department. So really what these recommendations are for is it's in order to be useful so that you're more aware of what's going on in your neighborhood, and as Katie was talking about, to keep yourself safe. Because when it comes down to it, we would rather have safe and respectful and helpful community members that are able to more effectively work with law enforcement to have accurate reporting than we want people who maybe take it upon themselves to really involve themselves in whatever's going on. That's not something that we want. So I'm just going to read through this. I apologize if some of these I read a little bit close to, but we tried to get the wording down as specific as possible. So when out in your neighborhood, be observant and document any criminal or suspicious activities. If you witness a crime, move to a safe location and call 911. Always report whatever activity you observe and encourage others to do the same. Do not harass, follow, or intimidate any persons. Community members are only to report what they see and hear. Do not confront any suspects or suspicious persons. Community members are the eyes and ears of their neighborhood. They do not take the place of law enforcement. And so these first three things really get to the importance of reporting. So at Safe Streets, and I know that some CLOs within the city of Tacoma will also say that we have the saying, if you don't report it, it didn't happen. So I'm sure that in your law enforcement sections, or perhaps when you were in your law enforcement breakout rooms, they talked a little bit about the importance of reporting and how they use reporting data in order to help more effectively guide patrols, in order to see crime trends, and otherwise just to really be more informed so that they can be more effective in the way that they respond to reported crime. Whereas if you do not report what's going on, and then let's say that you're on Nextdoor or something, or the Neighbors app, and in your head you're thinking, wow, we just have such a crime-ridden neighborhood, there's so much going on. Why isn't TPD, why isn't Pierce County Sheriff's doing anything about it? And then finally you just get so fed up at hearing all these terrible things that are happening. So you call 911 and you say, oh my gosh, we'd had such a string of car break-ins. Why hasn't TPD done anything about it? Well, TPD is going to look at their reported stats, and they're going to see, oh, it looks like you've only had one car break-in in the last year because no one else has been reporting. So making sure that you are reporting the criminal activity that you observe, not just reporting it to your friends and neighbors, but reporting it through the proper law enforcement channels is really, really important. So moving on, when reporting a crime or suspicious activity, stay in a safe location. When the police arrive, do not try to contact them, let them contact you. This is for your safety and the police's safety, and it'll be more useful at being a good witness in the event a suspect runs or drives past you. So again, a lot of these are really going to get at the fact that we want you to be keeping yourself safe first, and that if you are overly involving yourself in we'll get to that. I don't want to get too far into it. So do not interfere with the police while they're performing their duties. Community members must remain clear of any officer or on a call for service, traffic stop, or any other type of official police business. If you hear of an incident in the neighborhood, do not respond to the area. Never knowingly enter a hazardous area. And these past couple points really get at the fact that law enforcement officers, 911 call takers, medics, fire department, whoever it is, they're all specifically and rigorously trained to do their duties. They know what's best. And if you are, maybe you're just feeling very passionate, you feel like, oh, if I just chase down that car, if I just do whatever, then I'll be even more helpful than if I hadn't. Oftentimes that could also lead to you now being involved with a situation where you need help, or it escalates the situation in a way that the law enforcement officers would not benefit from. So number 7, volunteers must obey all laws, criminal and traffic, at all times. Please don't break laws in order to report crime. I think that's a little bit self-explanatory. Volunteers must not at any time be under the influence of alcohol or drugs while on a walkabout. And so this is really for safe streets volunteers specifically. So we do, as mentioned before, we do have block groups, and we do have some groups that decide to do block watches, where they will formally organize with their neighbors to cover, okay, from this time to this time on these nights of the week, these 2 people are going to go just walk around the neighborhood and report what they see. That can be a really effective way to just have a presence in your neighborhood. And like we said before, the #1 deterrent to crime is a good neighbor. And so knowing what's going on and letting others know what's going on is incredibly beneficial. That being said, we want to make sure that we're doing this in a safe way. And so making sure that you're obeying all laws and making sure that you're not under the influence of alcohol or drugs while on that mission, both for your own safety and for the Safe Streets name, frankly, is pretty important. The last couple recommendations are to make a note whenever a suspect and activity details whenever you see things that happen. As has been talked about, it can be extremely, extremely stressful when you find yourself in an emergency situation. And you may think that you have a fantastic memory, but when there's somebody trying to break into your door and you can't even remember your own address, it really speaks to the fact that it's hard to keep everything straight in your head. And it's hard to remember all those tiny details that may be important later. So whether you're in your own home, whether you're driving around, whether you're on a walkabout, we do like to recommend that you have a notepad or something handy so that when you do experience those kinds of activities, that you can record as much down in writing as possible. Number 10, we do recommend doing walkabouts with 2 or more people, one for driving when you're in a vehicle and the other for observing and recording and calling in dispatch. There is safety in numbers. And even if you're not a part of a Safe Streets group and you're doing this formal walkabout, even if you're going out alone, if you're going for a walk, if you're going on an errand, it's just always a good practice to have a second person. It's both for your safety and so that you can corroborate each other's stories and you can, have a little bit more confidence that you're giving correct information when you're talking with law enforcement. Lastly, and this is again for any Safe Streets groups, if you're using the Safe Streets name while on a walkabout, or if you use the Safe Streets logo on your car, clothing, etc., while you do such activities, we do request that you not carry any kind of weapons of any form on your person. What's been generally found is that when there are more weapons involved, it's more likely that there's going to be some kind of violence with weapons that happens in an interaction. We just want to make sure that people are being safe and that they're not taking any undue risks. And in our history, we tend to find that if people do not have weapons, it does not escalate as often as when they do. And then at the very bottom, there is a little note. So if you don't have anything to take notes on, or if you're curious about what that could look like, Safe Streets does have some what we call house watch forms, but really they can be used to document a lot of different information in a lot of different contexts and situations. So if you wanted a little bit more about what specifically those notes could look like, reach out to your mobilizer or myself if you don't have a mobilizer, and we can definitely get you connected with that. And so this brings us to the very last section of the awareness and safety training, which are about some of the different services and resources that Safe Streets provides in order to help support you in keeping your neighborhood safe, doing these types of walkabouts if you're interested. So the first thing that I did want to talk about that actually both law enforcement and I think perhaps South San 911 referenced is crime prevention through environmental design, which is an acronym that we call SEPTED. And so I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with SEPTED, and as I'm presenting, I can't see, any chats or anything, but really broadly speaking, SEPTED is a series of practices, of standards and principles and practices to make a given property less susceptible to crime. The goal of which is to reduce opportunities for crime that may be inherent in the design of the structures of the neighborhood. There's 4 basic principles that are on this sheet, on this slide. But if Roxanne is interested, we actually do have a certified or a crime. What is it? She has her SEPTED professional designation, Roxanne Simon, and she's one of the only people in the county with this certification. So Roxanne, if you're interested, would you want to talk anything about SEPTED? Is she still in chat? I hope she is.
She still is.
Actually, the 4 basic principles are kind of what? So I jump right in. The 4 basic principles are listed right there. And I know that Sergeant Moss did talk about it in our group. It's just same principles of being able to see what's in your area. In talking about the surrounding of your home with trees, we talk about trees being limbed from 6 feet down, bushes in front of your windows, make sure they're no higher than 3 feet. The type of security you have on your windows, not meaning bars, but having, so bars are unsightly on windows, but there are ways to secure your windows so that someone can't open them. It's just basic, not something that's gonna cost a lot of money, maintenance that you can do around your home so that it's still safe. That's just a brief, and it's free. And I will drive anywhere.
Awesome.
That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Roxanne. And so the very last section is, or the very last resource, the service that I wanted to talk about that's related to awareness and safety does go back to the first section, which is that we at Safe Streets, the mobilizers, are able to offer a training called Block Watch 101, as well as organizing assistance for any neighborhoods or communities that may be interested in forming a neighborhood group or a block group. And so what the Block Watch 101 training consists of is it helps us, we come in and we have a meeting with you and your neighbors. We talk about some similar topics to what we're talking about in this training, but really the goal of the Block Watch 101 is to help you get a little more formalized of a structure so that you know, assuming you'd like to become some kind of a neighborhood group, what's the area that you're going to be watching over? What's the leadership structure look like? Do you want to have formal meetings, and how often do you want to? As well as things like if you wanted to set up a block watch, if you wanted to actually set up neighborhood walkabouts, how would you do that? And how would you actually put together that kind of a schedule and structure for your neighbors? So these are all different kinds of things that we're able to work with communities in order to do. And that we're frankly happy to do because it's why Safe Streets is around. And with that, we do come to the end of the awareness and safety training. And so it looks like we're a solid 40 minutes ahead of schedule. And I think, well, let's just take it to, we're just so efficient when we're talking about this. So does anybody have any questions, any comments that you'd like to ask before we're able to end this? Here, I'll stop sharing.
A lot of great information.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, thank you everyone so much for attending and for participating in this training. Thanks especially to Sergeant Moss and to Officer Terhar for sticking around for so long and for giving some really valuable information. And thanks also to Katie for being able to come in and provide some of that insight into how Southside 911 works. As a note, we do have the Safe Streets Community Conference. It's going to be an online conference series, online workshop series, happening every Thursday of this month. Our first session is this upcoming Thursday. It's going to be October 1st, and it's from 5:30 to 7 p.m. This session specifically is going to be on some different neighborhood improvement project resources. So we have folks from Little Libraries, from Community Gardens, and then from the Tacoma Tree Foundation coming in, just in case you or your neighborhood group is interested in some extra projects that you can be doing to improve your neighborhoods. If you're interested in attending the conference or getting some more information, I'll put the link to the our website in the chat that has the more information and registration for the conference. We also have National Night Out coming up next week, I believe.
Yep.
That Connor here is heading up. So Connor, did you want to say anything about the National Night Out?
So in normal years, National Night Out is one of the big community events where people can get out and have times to kind of like a Labor Day type activity. You get out and you celebrate just kind of your neighborhood and connectivity. And usually the police and the sheriff's department will come out and the fire departments. Well, COVID is being COVID. And so a lot of those activities have been fairly restricted in terms of how much outreach and how many people, but we are still really hopeful that people will take the opportunity in a safe manner to come out and just enjoy their neighborhoods and the associations and the friendships that you all share with one another. So we have that on our website that you can just officially register. We can send you out the information and the resources that we have that you can use to set that up. And hopefully you'll take advantage of that.
Well, thank you everyone so much for coming. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evenings, and hopefully we see you again soon.
Bye.
Good job, Eric. Good job, Connor.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.